Hello, in this lesson we are going to look at how blockchain can help the proof of ownership. So proof of ownership is basically, do I own something? It's essentially that simple. So we can end the video right here. That's it. Now, I'm only joking. For starters, yeah, we know what proof of ownership is, but we haven't actually covered how blockchain can affect it. So let's dive right in. One of the things which I'm sure you're fully aware of by now if you've been following the other lessons in this series, and that is it promotes that it cannot be altered or counterfeited due to the cryptography that is employed and all the validation checks. I've got videos covering all the cryptography, the hashing, the Merkle trees. Feel free to check them out to see on a more technical level how it all works. Essentially, it is immutable, and this helps ensure the validity of, well, ownership. And you might be thinking, okay, I have a pair of trainers, for example. I know they're my trainers. I know my phone is mine. I know my house is mine. I know, regardless of the value, I know what's mine and I know what isn't mine. So how can blockchain really help? Well, for one example is, imagine if I have a rare pair of shoes, and it is very common for these shoes to be counterfeited because they are in high demand, hardly anyone has them, and they cost a lot of money, and they're quite easy to counterfeit to a reasonable quality. So a lot of people immediately can't tell, especially when you're selling it online via some service like eBay. And using blockchain, we'll be able to have a audit trail. So if this is all tracked, we'll be able to see, okay, where did that individual get it from? Did they get it from, let's say, a retailer? If they did, who is that retailer? Let's see the legitimacy of that retailer. Okay, they are legitimate because they bought it from a validated seller. If they didn't buy it from, let's say, a retailer, then they bought it from someone else. It came from somewhere initially. So all of that will allow you to pinpoint where it came from, so you can see if it is fake or not, which is really useful. And the fact that this all could be done without having to spend any extra money or to insure it, basically an insurance in itself. So imagine if you go on eBay and you go onto a product page, it could automatically essentially have a stamp of approval. So all products have some sort of ID, so some sort of unique ID linked to them in this blockchain world, and that ID is linked to a individual which also has a unique ID about them, linked to them, and that says this individual owns it. If they sell it, then essentially the title, the way we will talk about property and houses as we have in a separate video, gets transferred to somebody else, and now they legally own it. And on that product page, it could have a stamp of approval saying this user is verified. It is also verified automatically that this product with this key belongs to this individual. And they could put a percentage rating as well based on several factors, saying that, okay, it's a 98% and anything above 90% is very good and it's definitely worth buying it. Anything below, it's like, we're not too sure about the seller, or maybe we're not too sure about the validity of the actual product, but we're pretty certain if it's close to 90. And then you could also, instead of just seeing the stamp of approval, could see a breakdown, what part is getting what percentage, so you can see exactly why it is a 90 or above, why it isn't certified. So you can verify that the seller verify that the seller is the owner. That is extremely useful. This can help identify stolen and or lost goods. Essentially, is the person that's selling it, do they own it? Oh, that's what we that's what we realistically want to know, and this could be done automatically, and it provides more rights to buyers and sellers. So obviously from the buyer's perspective, it ensures validity, but from the seller's perspective, it ensures that the person they're selling to is who they say they are. They're not a con artist. They're not somebody that buys a lot of items and then just returns them, because there are people out there that do that. I've heard about people that do it via Amazon, and what they do, they just buy the item, use it for a little while, and because Amazon, they've cracked down a bit now, I've heard, but they used to be very, very loose with their terms and conditions, and people took advantage of it. So they will buy something, use it, even use it for months and months, and then just return it, get a full refund back. And if you see, it shows that this individual is doing this a lot with a lot of retailers and sellers. The buyer might think, you know what, I don't want to sell to you, because people always talk about rights for, they always talk about sellers' rights. They always talk about buyers' rights, but ultimately there should be, and there are rights for sellers as well, and we need to ensure that all parties are secure, all parties are protected, because at one point the seller might become a buyer, and the buyer might become a seller, so they want to ensure that if they make that transition, that they are protected. It helps us to stay anonymous. So if we're buying something and we're selling it, even though we're buying and selling it, I might buy something and you might sell something. I might not know your your identification, where you live necessarily, your email address, your actual name, and you might not know that information about me, but I'll have a unique ID that is linked to you. You have a unique ID that is linked to me, and this will verify all parties to be legitimate. Let's write that out again. To be legitimate, which is a really, really powerful tool. So you can automatically verify parties are legitimate anonymously. So I can buy something, don't need to know about you, but ensure that you aren't a con artist, and we can do this via audit trails, but they don't need to tell me who you are, where you live. They just need to tell me, though, this is the sort of stuff you may or may not have done from an abstract level. And maybe the seller and the buyer wants to be a bit more transparent. They could have the option to set themselves as more, like, make their profile more public, so you can see who it is, or email address, or some more basic information of what they have done in the past. And ultimately it provides a audit trail of who has owned it and who does currently own it, and all of this provides automatic insurance without any extra fees, which is extremely useful. Usually insurance costs a lot of money, you're paying per month or per year, and before long it can get to the actual cost of the insurance can get very close to the actual overall cost of the product. But using this method, it could be automatically insured. Not that couldn't be insurance on top of that, because certain individuals, depending on what you're buying, how expensive it is, you may want extra insurance. That is fine. But you'll provide some basic level of insurance, which is very, very useful. And I think all parties should have basic level of insurance just automatically provided. And an audit trail will help provide that. So if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. If there was anything that we covered in the video that you didn't quite understand, feel free to rewind, go over it again. And as usual, thank you for watching, and I look forward to seeing you in my next lesson.